One of the things that they found within certain crashed UFO retrieval programs was a small element of something that did not conform with anything we have on Earth, but a large proportion of the material was Earth-based. They have, throughout the epochs, have placed this fear in mental subjugation in the churches. Don't think outside the box, Will, because if you do, you're a witch and will burn you, or we will drown you and keep you in that box there. And those at the top are initiating and using the mind, because the mind is incredible. This is very sensitive areas, and this is what I'm looking at the moment. Not just trying to pull the connections from one to the other, but what is wholly responsible? What's behind this force? Why are they doing this?
Way of Will John.
I will tell you that through the research, we are all researchers to a degree when you get involved with this, and we're trying to find our connection links with it. What was very interesting was that when I first looked at the Roswell crash, and I'm no expert, but it just seemed very strange to me that these UFOs, they come into our reality, and I thought, well, perhaps it's possible that from their dimension of reality, that they have to mold themselves into our reality. Now, what's interesting, I spoke to Dr. Arena Scott, and she's a brilliant scientist and her work for the Battelle unit. And one of the things that they found within certain crashed UFO retrieval programs was a small element of something that did not conform with anything we have on Earth, but a large proportion of the material was Earth-based. Now, I thought about this and I thought, well, hang on a minute. Does this mean that the force itself is coming from another dimension of reality, and that it's actually building itself up, constructing itself as it enters our airspace? And of course, when you go back to the Roswell, I know it's been done to death, but what's interesting, looking at it at different angles, it was, the army, the Roswell Army admitted, as we all know, that they had in possession a flying disc, and then it would turn out to be a secret Mughal weather balloon. So secret, in fact, and I did state this, that the army didn't even know it was out there. It took a rancher, Max Brezel, to go and find the debris. But what's interesting is that if it's true that they had salvaged secretly, as through Colonel Philip Corso in his book The Day After Roswell, that they were able to replicate this so-called technology, it just appeared to be in line with what we could kind of like replicate. So does that mean to say that the intelligence behind whatever's responsible is guiding humanity into a different area of evolution? Now, I agree, because in certain declassified documents, we are looking at something that is not completely physically based. This phenomena can come in and go out, morph itself, rather like the Dogman, the Sasquatch, the UFOs, you name it. So this fascinating era of interdimensional reality, and I believe that if you read a lot of the experiences that most people have had, people are seeing these windows opening in space, portals as they call them. So it could be possible that the cabal, those at the top, and I've always thought about this, they have, throughout the epochs, have placed this fear in mental subjugation in the churches. Don't think outside the box, Will, because if you do, you're a witch and will burn you, or we will drown you and keep you in that box there. And those at the top are initiating and using the mind, because the mind is incredible. It is the builder. It creates everything and anything. And they are utilizing this. And I did think another area to this, interdimensional area, is that, think of this, Will. Have you thought about this? And I'm sure you have. Most of society is contained, consciously subjugated. And the system, I believe, is aware of where people are, and no conspiracy, what they're doing, keeping in check, keeping in line. But there are other people who are, like yourself and many others, consciously elevated above that bubble of control. And I believe the system is aware of that. And it's possible they could send those agents in, i.e. the Greys, to check up on you, to see why it is that you're operating differently. What is it about you? Let's put a implant in you. Let's check you out. And this goes even further with regards to spirit. We're born into a world where we think there's just one ultimate force of all that is. I don't doubt that. But in terms of the incarnation, the Egyptians, for goodness sake, were aware of the planetary alignments. They know about their own star system. They know about where their consciousness, their soul, would be directed. And is it possible that, other souls have come in to incarnate through this drama of life, and that this cabal is holding us all down? There's another thing as well too, that it wasn't so much through research or open revelation, but it was what was happening before that. The pandemic occurred. Everything was rising upwards. I could feel consciously that people were, coming up, and then all of a sudden, bang! It was like, no, we can't have that. We've got to bring you right down to this sphere again. And I knew at that point what had happened. Now, another interesting thing, if I may very quickly, is that I feel that I had an implant in my right ear, and that could have been, we can't prove it, from the abduction in 1989. It gave me a lot of problems, a lot of jip. Went to the doctors 3 times. And the last visit there, the day nurse saw me because they probably thought I was wasting their time, because I felt the thing move back in my ear. And so the day nurse looked in and she said, I'm just going to get a doctor. And the doctor came down and had a look with a device, and she said, it looks like it's still healing. It has a crystalline structure to it. And then she left it. She went back to work, and the day nurse said to me, have you been abducted by aliens? Now, I went back to my car far worse than when I got there. They didn't send me to an ear specialist. Now, I had to have the jabs because my brother and I were going to America to do some talks. The only way you could get there was to have the jabs. It was all cancelled anyway. It was when I had the big one, I've only had 3 and no more, that I became very ill. And there was one night where I lost an hour, and there was roaring over the house with lights, and it's gone. The thing is gone. So interestingly, whether or not and I did mention this in one of my books, whether or not the jab had disrupted it. I spoke to another very good friend, Paul Sinclair. He's a wonderful researcher in England with cryptids and light phenomena, UFOs. And I explained this also to another well-known researcher in America. And they're saying that's interesting, So did they remove it because it had buggered something up for them? I don't know. So I believe that when you're looking into this subject matter, especially with the cabal, yes, there's other areas that are very, very dark. Cattle mutilation, I'm looking into at the moment, and dare we mention that other word, human, because you'll find that this is very sensitive areas, and this is what I'm looking at the moment. Not just trying to pull the connections from one to the other, but what is wholly responsible? What's behind this force? Why are they doing this? And because all we want to know the bigger picture. And who said that you're born, Will, and you're going to be educated this way? A basic form of education, absolutely, totally. The morals, yeah. But then now you need to go and get a job, and you're not going to ask any questions. You're going to pay taxes, and and then just follow the wheel, and then come in and go out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hang on a minute, and what's wonderful and delicious is that those at the top, the cabal, are revealing themselves openly, because people are now starting to question, and they're really trying to push down. But UFOs, again.
All right, if you enjoyed that clip, you can check out the full podcast by clicking right here. And if you want exclusive content, join our newsletter, become a badass member, thewayofwilljohn.com. The link is right down below.